Because like when 3 o'clock rolls around, it's like, right, it's 3 o'clock Kit Kat time. Do you know what I mean?
I do, yes, but I'm just saying that you can have a Kit Kat whenever you want.
It's 7 o'clock dump, 3 o'clock Kit Kat.
We interrupt your usual programming for a podcast in the art of bullshittery.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time it is with you. Welcome to the Blaggin podcast, a lifestyle podcast, where other shows would tell you how to get ahead in life. We're just trying to help you survive it. Start again.
No, we're rolling with it now. This is it. We're in the deep end. One take. They don't call me Mr. One Take for nothing. Shout out to Signey for that.
I'm blushing. My name's Tom Baker. I'm an actor, author, and part-time whale watcher. I'm here with my okayish friend, Chains.
Yes, sir.
Chains, how do you feel now that Blaggin' It is on the air? Our voices are on the internet. People can hear our very valid and important opinions. Chris, how's it changed your life?
How's it changed my life? I mean, wow. You know, the money just keeps flowing in, you know.
It's really hard for me to keep track of all my Louis Vuitton orders.
It's real hard when you make this much money, you know, all at once.
Literal pennies. My mum was, shout out to Judy B. Judy B, like Cardi B, but old. She was she didn't miss it as well. She was in the garden with a metal detector.
Right.
And she comes running in. She'd been out there for 2 hours. She came running, Tom, look at these pennies I found. I was like, Mum, that's 13p. You've literally made as much as the kids in sweatshops working for Apple.
Right, okay.
Maybe we should stop.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we're here now.
Anyway, Chris, how's your week been?
Yeah, no, it's been all right, man. I don't know about you, but response to the first episode it's been pretty good on my end.
Well, I wish I could say the same.
Oh,
no, I'm joking. Yes, no, really great response. Fantastic. Thank you so much to the people who listened to it and gave their feedback. Thank you to Richard, Helly, and Aidan for their feedback, and as well, Chris, to my
sound guy, Signey, shout out to him.
He's already had one shout out.
I mean, he deserves many. Trust me.
Okay, fair enough.
Trust me.
Okay.
I also want to shout out to my brother. He actually hit me up today to say that he listened to the episode, and I was, that was a very nice surprise for me. And apparently, he shall be tuning into this episode. So, what up, Jace?
Jace, sorry, is what I can say. I'd like to also say that Richard is my brother. I just didn't want to be like, my half-brother Richard. I give you the whole ancestry thing.
Isn't that the thing you have to send your spit or something?
That's
nasty.
Weirdly enough, when I got my free trial, shout out to Ancestry, please sponsor this video, I didn't have to send my spit. And within minutes, I found out that my family name is over 300 years old.
Christ.
I chased it all the way back to the 1700s. I thought that was quite interesting.
And you didn't need to send them saliva?
No, it was actually my semen.
Right.
No.
Moving swiftly on. Okay, episode 1.
I was going to say fecal matter, and semen came out.
That's a crazy sentence. That is a crazy sentence.
Hopefully that's not what she said.
Right, moving swiftly on. We're now on to episode 2.
Now 3 minutes in, and we're already at the explicit marker.
I know. At least we made it halfway through last time.
No, it was about the last 7 minutes. Anyway, yes, great. So, Chris.
Yes.
How's it going?
Yeah, no, it's cool, man. It's been do you know what? I'll be honest. It's kind of been a drag waiting to sit down and do this episode.
I hear what you mean. I think the minute it was out there and it was just seeing our names on Spotify and stuff. I know it's not quite my name in lights. It's my name on my iPhone screen, which I can do that just by activating Siri. It normally says "Hello, Tom," but it's on Spotify, which makes it all the more real. And I can remember, yes, I was talking to one person, and they were like, "Oh, it's a bit conceited having a podcast."
Yes.
And I said to this person, and I'm reading off my iPhone screen to give you the exact quote verbatim for the Wikipedia page.
Oh wow.
If I can inspire one person to write one more chapter, draw one more piece, sing one more song, film one more video, take one more photo, write one more play, that is enough. And so that, I feel, is enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, we joke about the merch and the non-stop cash flow.
It's a very noble mission, I think.
Oh yes, Tom Baker, a man of nobility.
Well, it's what we're here for. It's a podcast made by creators for creators. So, speaking of creators, actually,
Is that a transition?
Adjacent, sort of.
Play transition sound effect. This is where you do the transition sound effect. I'm gonna leave that in because that's funny.
Okay, all right, cool. So speaking of creators, last episode I believe only one of us got to speak about a few topics here, Tom. I don't know about you, but I personally heard that some questions were only answered on one side.
That's just the anxious host in me. Like, the minute you were talking, if you said something where I was like, and I was looking at my notes at the same time, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, he just talked about being original. I've got being original on my notes. So yeah, Chris, talk to me about being original. And I was like, I completely missed myself out, which is very unusual for a conceited person like me. So in answer to the clamouring fans who demand to know who I am as an artist, I am Tom Baker. I'm a professionally trained actor. I always put the professionally trained in just because,
Flex.
Flex, exactly. What have I done? I co-wrote a play that showed in London and later went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, where it received great critical acclaim. So I did that. I also directed a play for the National Theatre Connections program, which is where the National Theatre, obviously based in London, they get young theatre groups to pick a play and do a performance that they do like 7 runs in their hometown, and then they do a run in London as well. So I've directed, I've starred in, obviously I did. I've done like some indie films, I've done some stage work, and stuff like that. So in terms of like, yeah, because one of the questions we got was, who are you to be giving advice? Do you know what I mean? What's your credibility?
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly valid question to have, though. I mean, we're both in our mid-20s, and many would argue that we still don't know a damn thing about anything.
But I would argue that you, obviously when you do your training and you finish, that's really when your training begins, because you can't just finish something and then go, right, that's it, I know what that is now. Like, you're constantly learning and developing and stuff like that. And I know we did so many jokes about it last episode, but the book that I'm reading, Show Your Work, I finished it now, actually.
Okay.
Good read. I'm going to read it again. It talks about human spam. And the idea of the human spam is that it's someone who only ever posts about their own work, and they completely shut themselves off to everything else.
Right.
And I don't want to do that. I feel like these things I've learned from other people, I then want to share that with everyone else rather than just talking about my own work all the time. So is that credible? Yeah, because I'm speaking with the voice of all these other people that I've learned stuff from. Do you know what I mean?
It's quite interesting that you say that, because last episode you said about how you try not to pay too much attention to what's going on around the outside.
I knew you were going to bring this up. Even if as I was saying it, I was like, Tom, you literally said... Where do you find
the balance? Because it's clearly something that you're trying to find a balance in. Everything's healthy in moderation. So how do you think? Where is the line here between you're sort of paying too much and now you're almost sort of feeding from it? And then...
Yeah, I think what it is I will cherry pick the best. That's, yes, okay, I've got it. So when someone says to me, who's your favourite actor? I never know how to answer, because I won't have a favourite actor and then watch every film they've been in or every TV series and read every book they've done, because I'd hate to put someone on a pedestal like that, because I think that acting is such a diverse, limitless thing. I always want to be learning new stuff and seeing, so I'm always looking at artists who are emerging. For example, what was it? This is a gross example. But it's like, this is an old example. Harry Potter, they only cast for like the school children. They cast new actors, fresh talent. And so pieces like that are pieces that I'd watch, because I want to be like, I remember seeing that person in their first thing and now they've become this thing. Whereas if you're just watching all the Daniel Day-Lewis films, what are you getting that's new and inspiring. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like it's constantly moving, constantly evolving, so you can't afford to pigeonhole on one specific person. And that's kind of the line I draw. Like the day when you're like watching all their films and claiming to be their biggest fan is when I'd start to be like, oh, I want to become them. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
Like everyone does Cardi B's like, do you know what I mean? And I hate to walk around, I don't know one of Benedict Cumberbatch's catchphrases, but I'd hate to be, I'd hate for that to tease into the work. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you go places when you're acting, and your subconscious stuff arises from your subconscious. I'd hate for something that's kind of repressed down there to bubble up, and people go, "Oh, you were copying that person. You're not unique. You're not authentic." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a long-winded answer for you.
I mean, no, it was a very in-depth answer. I appreciate it.
That's okay.
And we now got your side of things.
My side of the story.
So
side B.
Yeah, we can, we don't need any more comments.
We can move on and forget it ever happened. FUCK it, Chris. We're going to blow the lid off relationships.
Okay.
It's the big one.
Okay, shall we talk about how...
I want to talk to you about dating.
Right, just straight up.
Yeah.
Okay, what about it?
How do date? How do date? How do I do? How does work? What are some of your problems, beliefs, like things you've learned from dating? Like, what is it? What advice would you give to someone who's struggling with it, who thinks I'm unattractive, I'm unlovable, etc.? Like,
Well, first and foremost, that is just not true at all. And to be honest, anybody that is thinking like that, I probably wouldn't recommend that they go searching right now.
Dating is the last thing someone like that needs.
Me personally, I'm a very firm believer of it is not possible to love somebody else until you love yourself. Because
there's going to be a lot of, if there are any homosexual listeners, they're all going to be quoting RuPaul. Do you know that? Whereas if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else?
I do not know that.
He goes, can I get an amen? And everyone goes, amen.
Amen.
There you
shout
go.
out to you, bro.
Bro, I can't believe you just called RuPaul, bro.
Sorry, what should I call him?
Never mind. Let's not unpack that.
Okay, let's not.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so don't love anyone else until you love yourself.
I just don't think it's possible, man. Like, it's... Because then you would almost, like, entirely rely on them to bring that to you. And, so many people think that, it's an absolute must. You have to have a partner. You cannot get by in life without a partner here. And it's just not true.
I can remember for a long time in like, it's about that kind of year 8 to year 11 kind of age where having single on your Facebook profile was like a dirty thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm single. And when everyone else is like in relationships and stuff like that.
How many of those lasted though? Let's be real.
Well, I think, that's the thing as well, isn't it? Is that a lot of...
I mean, I'm not trying to like cuss them or anything, but
no, I'm sure some of them did. But at the same time, you've got to be so kind of secure and sure in yourself.
Yes.
In order to kind of not support someone else, because that sounds a bit too committal, but to live with someone and understand them on that same level. You've got to have a deep understanding of yourself before you can even begin to understand someone else. Yeah,
absolutely.
I watched this. I was from the School of Life series that I sent you. So it's Alain de Botton, I think his name's pronounced, and it was talking about dating when you've had a bad childhood.
Right.
And one of the things it said is that, a huge theory of his is that we look for partners who will make us suffer.
Right.
Who will make us feel the same pain as we did as children. So if we had a parent or a guardian who is particularly aloof or cold, that will reflect itself in later life when a person at the bus stop who we take a fancy to but seems quite aloof and cold, we are drawn to them.
Right.
Does that make what
That's
do you think
really
about that?
interesting.
Yeah. So we try and attract partnerships and relationships that remind us of our childhood.
Well, just across the board, just generally.
That's the general belief. Yeah.
That's insane. I've never heard that.
This is great. I'm actually this is sort of really So like So if we had a mother who was particularly down about herself, who needed a lot of support, who was crying a lot when we were kids, and we'd have to be there and say they're there and pat them on the back, etc. We'd look for that in a partner to try and replay a space where we felt maybe more secure and more familiar to us, because we're trying to replicate that familiarity, that sense of habit. What do you think about that?
I mean, that really takes product of your environment to a whole new level.
Yeah. So if you find yourself, listeners, constantly in relationships with toxic or abusive partners, it might be time to give the old therapist a ring and say, I need to talk about my childhood.
Oh, mate, we could do probably do a whole episode on my thoughts on therapy. Like, everyone at some point, do it.
That's what I was gonna
get some. Like, I view it so of the way that I describe it is treat it like I think everyone should treat it like a dentist appointment. You go once a year.
That's good. I like that.
You go once a year. If your mouth's knackered, you go back again in a short space of time.
That's so good.
So, and if it's not, cool. See you next year.
Yeah,
like
because...
do exactly the same thing, just up here. What's going on upstairs? Let's sit down.
And it's just as important as your gnashers.
I mean, yeah, if not more important.
Oh well, yeah, totally.
You know, so even if it was just like, okay, you get, because therapy can be very expensive.
It is, and that's something that's been holding me back a lot. That's why I really value the School of Life videos. This is me. This last week it was Show Your Work. This week it's School of Life. But like truly transformative stuff, especially in terms of relationships and how you treat other people, as well as your relationship with yourself. Helping understand it, because it's really hard to understand these huge concepts. And one of the questions that Alan de Botton, I'm just going to call him Alan from now on, Alan, I hope that's okay. He says, if like there's a catastrophe, the one question is, how were you to know? There's no guidebook to life. There's no self-help podcast, or maybe there is, that tells you these things. And so how were you to know? So rather than getting beat up and in a place of self-deprecation, how was I to know? How was I to know that bad thing would happen? How was I to know that I'd get hurt, etc.? But yeah, so therapy, I think mental health is such a dirty word, isn't it? Do you feel that in social media and
it's
our
quite,
society?
It's quite controversial in some cases. The thing is, like, it is such a grey area for many reasons. I mean, I suppose its biggest downfall is it's invisible.
Yes.
So, I fall down the stairs and break my leg. Everyone can see, oh, maybe I should... And
you put a cast on it.
Yeah.
Yes,
maybe I shouldn't, push him over. He's clearly already in pain.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, oh, I can't, I can't play sports today because clearly, whereas, people with mental health issues now feel like they physically cannot get out of bed sometimes.
Yeah.
And to just say, oh, I can't get out of bed because I don't feel like it. It's just like... people would be like, "Oh, get up off your ass! Oh, get out there, go and do this, or you just need to do this." Get over it. Yeah, get over it. Oh,
it's not as bad as you think.
Or people have it worse, or whatever, and I'm sure they do, but
it stigmatizes an issue.
Yeah,
and you can't do that. You can't stigmatize, and you can't turn that into a point of ridicule and hate and negativity. It makes me very grateful for something you said that resonated with me there, is the fact that people can't get out of bed sometimes. Yeah. And that makes me so grateful to have that get up and go in the mornings and stuff like that. Yeah. Because I can't imagine how it is for someone. So what advice would you give? Maybe it isn't our place to say this sort of thing, but I guess get therapy is the sort of thing that you're not alone and there are people that can help you, is what we can say.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw this... I remember reading this thing once. It was like it was meant to be one of those like feel good posts or whatever, and had like a little cartoon storyboard, and essentially, so one person said to the other, "What's the strongest thing? What's the strongest thing you've ever done?" And then the other one said to him, asked for help.
Yeah.
And I feel like it is like the most difficult part. I think it's actually realizing that everything's not all right and we need to do something about it. And a lot of the time, I think people don't actually know what their options are as opposed to what you can do about it.
Yeah. And they don't know that there are lots of resources for them to go to, because they do try and repress it and bury it and not face.
Which ultimately just makes it worse.
So with that in mind, that kind of brings us swimmingly onto what are your thoughts on like meditation as a tool for mental health?
So I've actually really been sort of considering getting into it myself. Actually, I've recently.
What attracts you to it? What are your preconceptions of it, and how have your preconceptions been eradicated or changed by your curiosity into it?
So I've always wanted to. It might get a bit too deep here, actually, but I've always wanted to sort of shut everything off up here once in a while, even if it's just for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it bugs the living daylights out of me that it never stops. There is something constantly.
That's interesting that you'd say that, because I feel like even before we were recording, I was very like everywhere, and you were the one that was saying, "Chill out, it's okay." Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes I feel like I'm like like a beat when a fly is trapped in the room. It's just like going everywhere.
Yeah.
But carry on. Yeah.
And I actually first came across the idea. I was listening to a fellow podcaster, Joe Rogan. I'm sure you've heard of him. I'm sure everyone's heard of him.
Yeah.
And he had, I can't remember the guy's name, but he had somebody on there, and they were both talking about meditation and how it affects them, and how they go about it, and the sort of experiences that they've had. You know, this guy was saying about how almost his body or his mind completely exits his body.
Yeah.
And it's just nothingness. He doesn't think of anything, he doesn't feel anything, and he seems to be like the happiest guy I've ever seen.
It's so enviable, isn't it, when you see someone who's so like, even I watched a video with Orlando Bloom recently, which I think came out a year ago, where he was talking about this very specific practice. I can't quite remember it. It annoys me I can't remember it, because it means it's totally useless for listeners if they want to go and watch the video. I might put it in show notes. But even as he was just talking to the camera, and there was just a real sense of peace and tranquility and comfort. And you can imagine if you were sat opposite this person, you'd just be like so contented, because something I wrote in my blog post this morning actually was this idea of sponges and mirrors.
Okay.
Go with me here. So when you're in an awkward conversation with someone, you feel awkward and reflect that like a mirror. Yeah. And then the person you're with soaks that up like a sponge and reflects it back at you. And so an awkward conversation is made, an awkward experience made all the more awkward by you feeling awkward. Right. So what does that tell us? If I remember what feeling confident feels like, that carefree, light, playful, bright kind of energy, if I can just replicate that in myself, like I'm with my friends, with my family, with my dog, except when I'm on my own, and I can project that into this current negative experience, the person I'm with will soak that up like a sponge, reflect it back at me. I've turned a negative atmosphere into one that's positive. And I feel like that relates to obviously this practitioner who's very peaceful and etc. I imagine that he experiences such inner peace that he projects that, and then people around him will just absorb that tranquility. So you didn't have any preconceptions of it. You didn't think it, because I've always been like, oh, meditation, it's about bold monks going on a mountain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's something that as soon as somebody mentions it, you immediately think of something.
So you immediately associate it with that.
Yeah, you think of something like that.
Yeah.
And it's the same way that I'm sure people hear like rap music and they immediately think of guns, drugs, women, and I don't know, graffiti in alleyways or something like. And it's a lot more than that.
Sounds like my Friday night.
But yes, I didn't have any preconceptions as such. But I've just been trying to be a lot more positive minded. And this guy said that a lot of meditation at the start is actually, so he compared it to an old email inbox. So obviously an address you haven't used in years, you go into it and there's like 2,000-3,000 emails in there. We don't go through or at least I don't.
Yeah.
I don't go through every single email and just, delete them at a time or even bother read. Just start a new email address. It's
Yes.
like I'm sick of all this that comes through now. All this stuff, like, you use a website once and now it emails me like all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't want this anymore. Just start a new email address. So he was sort of treating the mind like that. He's like, when actually, if we take the time, when you actually first start out, all of this stuff will come back.
Yeah.
And it will be hell.
Yeah.
Because it'll be all of these awful thoughts and negativity and all these bad energy, whatever you want to call it, comes back. And at first it will seem like it's only that.
Yeah.
But you're ultimately facing it head on and you sort of get through that. And then when it comes around again, it's either almost non-existent and it's very sort of faded in the background, or you sort of shrug it because it's, I've heard that before. Yeah.
So the way I've kind of been into kind of spirituality for about 3 or 4 years now, and through my I used to do a lot of hypnotherapy because I used to struggle getting to sleep.
Okay.
And a lot of those videos talk about developing this healthy detachment from the emotion, from the thought. So it's not shutting your feelings off, because that'd be sociopathic, but it's about almost, rather than a first person, the camera being in first person, you're just taking it to be a bird's eye view, or a what's it called in film when it's a wide shot, a wide angle, as opposed to close up and in there. So as you say, you're right. So you do. And it's the same in therapy. They ask you to reimagine those circumstances on a sensory level. So what could you smell? What could you feel? What could you taste? What could you hear? And by replaying those memories, you do confront them and you do work through them. Something I've just thought of now, which is quite a nice image. It's almost like having a color photograph. So let's say the color photograph is the painful memory, and it's almost like you're taking the color out of the photograph so that it's black and white, so that it is just seen for what it is.
That's a fantastic way of putting it.
You're taking all the reds and stuff. The red being anger, green being envy, blue being sadness, etc. You take them away from it, and you just acknowledge the fact, the event for what it inarguably, objectively is. Yeah,
you just remove the complication out of it.
Yeah. And that's how people develop this sort of carefree way about them, is they go, it is what it is kind of mantra sort of thing. So that's kind of the kind of teaching I've learned is developing that that detachment from it. Another one, we brought up RuPaul already. In the first episode ever of his podcast, he talks about one thing he learned was in meditation, you are you, and you're sitting on a riverbank and you're watching the river go by, and the river is the thoughts.
Okay.
The thoughts and the feelings, and you're not swimming in the river, you're not playing in the river, you're not drowning in the river. You're just sat and you're watching them pass. So rather than when one comes, you think, I'm going to jump in there. I can't swim. I'm drowning, which is what it feels like a lot of time. Mental health feels like this black hole that goes in and burrows deeper. And you really struggle with, how am I going to get out of this? I can remember one morning I woke up, it was about 3 a.m. in the morning, and I was genuinely like caught in a mental health loop where I was like, I'm not going to get out of this. This is how I'm going to feel. It was really rough. And I had to really hold on to the teaching, the breathing, that detachment, etc., to pull myself out of it and go, wait a minute, Tom, you're doing that thing where you're drowning in the river. So even that image of, I'm sitting on the river and I'm watching the thoughts go by. Again, there's that imagery, that sense of detachment, of distance from them. And that's essentially what we're doing, because we are not our thoughts and feelings. We are merely the conscience that experiences them. And that can be a weird concept to kind of wrap your head around.
Yeah.
But our feelings don't define us. We're just a vessel, and occasionally these things, it is like, waves. Occasionally they rise and swell and they tower over you in mighty tsunamis and storms, etc. And other times the sea is calm and tranquil and chill. Yeah? Loads of imagery. Like, imagery is massive in meditation.
Yeah.
What's it called? Imagery, yeah. So Chris, on this, we were talking before we were recording, you are going to try 30 days of meditation.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's and I think it'd be really interesting to actually observe and almost use, the podcast as like weekly updates of just like, have I, experienced anything completely differently? How do I feel generally, like just as a whole?
And this is someone who has no previous knowledge of spirituality, of meditation, anything. Someone who is just curious about taking care of their mental health and wants to give it a go. And I think that's a lot of things. That's something a lot of listeners can relate to.
Yeah.
So, listener, I speak to you now. I'd like to challenge you to take the same challenge Chris is. So, when this episode airs, which will be Friday the...
we're going to have a look now.
Checking my phone because I don't know what day it is. Our service says 26. The 26th. From the 26th, every day, to meditate.
Okay.
The great thing about meditation, Chris, is that people think it's this laborious, hours and hours of sat still on my cushion. No. It doesn't have to be. It can be, as we were saying before we were recording, it can be a minute, it can be 2 minutes, it can be 5 minutes. Start off small and work your way up to something bigger. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to run a marathon, I don't start with
25 miles.
25 miles. I was going to say 26, but thank you.
I think it is 26, but yeah, you won't start at 25.
Okay, you wouldn't start at... because of 26. So you'd be wasting your time. God, that was a little laugh we needed to kind of break the seriousness. But yes, you wouldn't start with 26 miles, would you?
No.
So why on earth would you start with hours of meditation? No, you start with a mile. You start with 5K, etc. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we start off light, and the thing is, it's
like building a muscle. It is. You can't get a six-pack in a day unless you get plastic surgery.
And even then, that's not.
Even then, it's a botched job.
Let's not do that. It's also, it's not necessarily sitting in a room with your legs crossed. It's sort of sat upright. Like, meditation is simply just the art of doing nothing.
Yeah, and sometimes not even nothing, because that can intimidate people, because they go, oh, now I'm thinking. But
we're supposed to think.
And they get into, exactly, that's what real meditation, and I'm going to send you some videos, and I'll probably put some in the notes as well. I'll put them on our Instagram and stuff like that, which we'll talk about, shout outs at the end of the show, but some proper videos that proper talk about the simplicity and the elegance of the model, because it isn't... sometimes it is just one thing I found really useful, and I want listeners to take this away, is focus on the exhale. Okay. Rather than I breathe in and out, only focus on the out breath, because the in breath will happen naturally. That's a natural reflex. So what you need to focus on is a deep and sustained exhale. So I do it through the nose because the orifice is smaller, the breath is more controlled. So in, great audio for a podcast.
I hope the mic picked that up.
Yes. Don't look at me doing it again, in case you didn't. But that's a focus on the exhale, and because the exhale is that sense of release, Chris. It's that sense of, for people, I'm sad there isn't a video feed, but I'm getting very zen with you right now, aren't I?
Yes.
I'm closing my hands.
He's in the. I think he might be meditating right now.
I'm closing my eyes. I'm using my hands. Because it does take me, the minute I talk about it, I just get this sense of fulfillment and gratitude and not pleasure. That's a bit weird, but no, I'll say pleasure. I'm going to say it, Chris. I'm not afraid to talk about pleasure. It's the 21st century. I'm a free, independent person. And then he said, man. So in and then out. And the sense of exhalation, this sense of deepening, sinking, going deeper into yourself. So that's the first piece of advice I would give anyone, is just to focus on the exhale. Thoughts will come, and when they do, rather than go, oh, I'm thinking, oh, why can't I stop thinking? And building that frustration, which is just going to wind you up even more. You let go of thinking about the breath. Your breath reflects what's happening inside the body. So if my breath is uneasy and shallow and, oh my God, I haven't got the ground, what's the mind going to be?
Yeah.
Let's say the mind is is this becoming too much like a meditation thing, or is this interesting?
Mate, keep rocking with it.
We haven't got a comment section.
We're here right with you.
Let's imagine the mind as a boat. Okay, I'm in my boat. You know, like the cartoon drawing of a boat. It's got that one sail. You know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's a little stick man in it.
Yes, a stick man. Yes. See, I'm going there again. And the breath is the sea. Okay. If my breath is, what's the sea gonna be, Chris?
Yeah.
Throw some adjectives out. Tumultuous.
Tumultuous.
Tumultuous. Is that not?
No.
Torrential. Yes. You know, tempests. Whereas if the breath is deep and even just then,
yeah,
totally changed my mood. Do
you feel better?
I feel like I've gone somewhere. It's very weird. It's very powerful.
Already.
When it's as simple as that, though. That's the thing. In the minute you've got to practice it. As I said, it's like a muscle.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get back into jogging recently, because I want my summer bod, Chris. I want my summer bod. No, I joke. That was a joke. Okay. As if I care. Anyway, I go for my runs, and every day I come back home and I look at my belly and I go, oh, still got a wine belly. And that's silly of me. I should not be thinking about the results being instantaneous.
Yeah.
Another video I watched today talked about success and life is mundane. Mm-hmm. It's boring. Yeah. But because what we should do is focus on these seemingly boring, mundane little things, like eating healthily, like exercising, like meditation, self-care, etc., rather than the sports cars, the girls / boys / others / I don't know, clubbing, etc. All of that stuff is exterior to the self. No?
Yeah.
No? And if my sense of self is not wholly complete and satisfied, the rest isn't, drugs, alcohol, sex even. Some people use sex to fill that hole, that gap.
Yeah.
Literally.
I think that was a very literal
I walked into that one. But
sorry.
Come on. Remember on the keyboards. Come on.
Come on.
And so yes, meditation. So Chris, I will send you some videos, and remember, focus on the exhale, sitting, watching the river. And so with this in mind, viewers, I'd like to challenge you as well. Friday, what did we say, the
26th?
Weirdly, that's how many miles there are in a marathon. I'm not...
Coincidence?
Isn't that...
I think not!
Don't you think that's weird? So this is another thing. Maybe we can talk about it after the break, because I'm going to do a deliberate break, because I think after that we need to just have a cup of tea and chill. But I want to talk about maybe, are we in the Matrix? Is reality real?
Are we in the Matrix? I mean, we were supposed to talk about relationships.
Chris, I've written in my show notes, I've written relationships, 4 minutes, therapy...
4 minutes?
I think that's how long it was. But yes, viewers... I'm going off track. 30 days starting from the 26th of June 2020, or if you're in the future, tomorrow, I want you to...
I mean, even if you're listening to this podcast after it's been out for months, just do it anyway.
Even if you're listening in 2005, because there might be time travelers out there, do it. 30 days of meditation, watch some videos, download Headspace, get a free trial, 1 to 2 minutes a day if you have to. And I want you to keep a journal and record what goes on, so that over each day we can track how / if it's helping you. And I'd like viewers to record their findings either in picture form on the Insta. So maybe, your space where you do it. It might be in a quiet room. You might have a pillow, a certain pillow that you sit on. There might be a certain candle that you light. I'd love to see those pictures. Use the hashtag ZenningIt. Okay?
Go on, hit it with that hashtag again, bro.
Hit it with the hashtag ZenningIt. Okay?
Now spell it for them.
Okay, ZENNING. We're using Zenning properly spelled because you can't use punctuation in a hashtag it. I don't need to spell that out for you because if I do, log off. And if you're on Twitter, we've got a Twitter as well, at Blaggin It Pod.
Yes.
At Blaggin It Pod. Look, Chris did all the socials. So like I was on my, what did I say? My Elon Musk walk.
Yes.
Experiencing my millionaire fancy. I was like, Chris, so just set up the socials if you can. Yeah, hotwire an email just to me. Yeah, set that all up. Thank you. So at Blaggin It Pod, hashtag Zenning It. Write down, day 1. I feel like this. Day 2, this has happened. Day 12, I've hit it. I've hit the Zen. And I'd just be really interested in finding out how people get on with it. And you can DM us as well on any of those socials for advice or for videos, etc. I really want to get people behind this. I think mental health is so hot right now in terms of we're all realizing how important it is. I feel like there's been a mental health revolution. Think of how many apps there are. Think of how many shows there are, etc. Like, people really want to get into this, and I think that we as like, your typical like on the streets kind of guy, approachable kind of people might be good voices for that because we're not bold, we don't wear orange kimonos, and we don't sit on hills in the Tibetan mountains. No,
at least not yet.
Not yet. That's where we want to be. So
I might be after this month of meditating.
Yes, you bold. That I'd love to see. Just a hair on your body.
No, that would be horrible.
Not a hair on your chinny chin. Chris, we're going to take a break just to have a tea and exhale, and we will be right back after this break. Relationships. I feel like we didn't give this topic the light of day.
Yeah, we sort of very quickly ended up going on a bit of a tangent, which is absolutely fine.
But I think it was because you said you can't, how can you love someone else who don't love yourself? I feel like it's all connected.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It is all connected, and that's the thing, is that mental health, awareness, meditation, again, it comes back to how I was talking about life being mundane. Life is boring, doing the little things like meditation, exercise, eating healthily, so that those things that are external, our relationships, fiscal wealth, if that's what's important to you, family, etc., those external things they ricochet from the core me being okay.
Yes.
So in terms of relationships, dating, etc., what are some of my shortest relationship was in year 8, and it was 45 minutes long, and it began at break time, first break, and then it ended halfway through French because she came up to me and flicked my ear, and I was like, "You're damped." I can't believe you flicked my... She playfully, flirtily... I didn't know what flirting was, so she came up to me, flicked my ear, and I was like, "You've assaulted me." Abuse in the workplace. And she was... and in my journal the next night, just scribbling her name out.
You broke my heart. She
broke my heart to this day.
To this day? You still hold on to that resentment?
Oh, God. That's why I don't like the French. No. Someone the other day told a worse joke about the French, so I feel like I should... It was my sister. It was yesterday.
That is... Mate, that's got to stay.
One thing I want to... when do you... So let's say you're in this toxic relationship. I don't know. What does that mean to you? What is a toxic... Just for people who, I don't know, might be in this situation and don't know, can't see the... Is the phrase, see the wood for the trees or something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they're not like... They can't... Their blinders are up. They're not aware. What do you think toxic relationships look like?
Toxic relationships, okay. So, very, very different, various types of abuse.
Yeah.
Of course, be that emotional, mental, financial, like there's all. I mean, physical.
The financial one is one I didn't know it really existed until I started talking to more people who have experienced it.
Yeah.
Like I've got one friend, I obviously won't name them, but whose partner got them into a massive amount of debt.
Yeah.
And use their name as like is it a creditor or something like that, or they do it under your name because you've got a credit history, and then just completely F you over with all this debt.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And like in terms of, I like to think I can help people with like spirituality and stuff like that. But the minute someone goes to me, my ex got me in loads of debt, I instantly go, I can't help you, because I didn't know that kind of thing exists. I didn't know someone could be so. It's awful. So
see, that's a first for me too. I was completely ignorant to that. I mean, I knew about things like, that they want their partners to always buy them things, and if they don't, then it becomes an argument.
That's quite trivial. That's a bit immature. But we're talking about like high grade manipulation and wrecking people's lives, which is why I feel like people should be really careful before they get into a relationship.
Absolutely.
Don't see each other for like 3 months and then be like, oh, we're committed now.
Yeah.
RuPaul's like the guy, he's going to be the face of this episode. He's got a weird hokey pokey view on monogamy, because he feels monogamy, obviously, okay, for anyone not knowing, monogamy, committing, one-to-one relationship, not seeing any people.
Yeah.
Because he thinks that as animals, we're bound to want to sleep with the waitress, sleep with the air hostess, sleep with the can't think of a male thing. I don't know. Car mechanic.
Personal trainer.
I'd like to say to listeners, I was joking about the car mechanic thing. It was the first thing that came to mind. I'm very progressive. I don't believe in gender politics, as in like gender shouldn't exist. Not as in. Yeah. But anyway, cool. He thinks that by having the expectation that we wouldn't do that, it puts more pressure and could be more destructive to a relationship, rather than just basking in the F fest. The fudge fest of, I don't know, whatever whatever animal kingdom that is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think about monogamy and that kind of?
I mean, I'm
quite partial to a bit of commitment. But
yes.
But when do you know to make that commitment? Because this is the thing, cheating. And in our break, I was like, oh, do we talk about cheating? Because I feel like it's a bit trivial. But if you feel like you're going to cheat, or if you feel like your partner's going to cheat, what's the point?
Exactly. Yeah. What is the point? This goes.
Why go through? And this is what I don't understand about cheaters. Why go through all the rigmarole? What's that? That word.
Oh my god, I can't say it now.
That word.
This is embarrassing.
Listeners, I want hashtag rigmarole it.
Rigmarole.
Challenge. Right. We're going to move on.
I think I just said it, but yeah.
Why go through all of that if you know you're just going to be sleeping with someone else in 3 weeks' time?
Because it's
when
like...
do you know that you want to commit to this person?
So I think, some people, they like the thrill and excitement of the potential of getting caught. Some people want to get caught.
Oh my gosh, people are mental.
That's
my conclusion.
Some people want to get caught out here, man, and they really they get quite a kick out of it. It's quite it's also like people that get a thrill out of having sex in public. They like that idea that they could get caught. Don't understand why. The last time I want to get seen is with my trousers around my ankles and my dick hanging out. There's an image for you.
Yeah. Jesus.
But just saying.
Oh no, not and the but. That was funnier than that. Well, that was oh my god, that was like a Catherine wheel. They start off really pathetic.
What a cosmic.
Do you think as a society we are, this is probably a bit of a deep question, are we repressed? Is this sense of wanting to regress, to have sex in public, to cheat on our wife or husband, to do bad things, sinful in air quotes, things, a result from the laws and strictures of society being maybe too strict? Even as I'm talking, this sounds like an essay thesis. Too strict for a race that is at its core an animal.
I think...
Have you ever tried to pet a cat when it doesn't want to be pet? It will bite you. Do you know what I mean? Is
Yeah.
that the same thing for humans?
I mean, you make an interesting point. It's I mean, I don't even know where to start, bro.
These are the kinds of thoughts that go around my head. And that's why, like, let's take, for example, I don't really want to talk about it, but I'm going to, the anti-Black Lives Matter protests.
Right.
From the far right, as it were.
Right.
Saying...
So these are people that are against the protests that they had going on?
Yes, they are against anti-racism, Chris. They're anti-racism.
Right.
I love that your face right now is telling me everything I'm thinking. Isn't ridiculous? The first time I saw a headline saying that, I went, sorry, what?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why it happened is because as a society, we've been repressed and we've been held down by government, by society, etc. for so long. We just want to fight now. We just want to rebel. We want a revolution. And that's why statues are being ripped down. That's why people are turning against each other. That's why people are stabbing each other. Mm-hmm. I would like to, obviously, thoughts and prayers to the victims of the Reading attack.
And condolences, yeah, absolutely.
Even things like that, I think, and maybe I'm being a bit generalist, maybe I'm whitewashing a deeper issue, but I feel like it comes from a sense of regression, a sense of some particular individuals, a small minority, being warped in the head that they want to rise above. They want to rise above those that structure that's been holding us down. They want to cheat on their wife. They want to,
Yeah, they want to go
down.
against the grain. Let's do what we're not
it's
supposed to do.
It's that classic when you tell a child not to do something, they're going to do it.
Yeah. I now want to do it even more.
Is that not a universal kind of thing? Is that not?
I think so.
Does that not transcend into adulthood?
Yeah, a lot of people never really sort of grow out of that mentality. So they're told not to do something, and it's now the only thing that they want to do. Absolutely, and yeah, typically speaking, yes, you get into a relationship, you stay with that person, and
again, yeah, and all your friends can be saying, "Oh, you need to leave that person. You need to leave that person because they're not good for you." Mm. And then the one thing you want to do is the opposite of that.
Exactly.
And and it becomes a vicious cycle, a painful trap.
Yes. To be fair, whilst we're at this subject, to anybody, I'm sure most people have either experienced it at some point, or there are a lot of people that are experiencing it right now. If you have somebody in your life that is dating somebody who is incredibly toxic, who is dragging them down and destroying them, unfortunately, the sad reality of the situation is you have to just let it be. Like,
really,
this
is the advice to the friend of the person who's being abused.
You cannot save somebody that does not want to be saved.
I think that advice is so. RuPaul says the same thing. You two should meet. We should get in a room.
Get him on the show.
Chris, I would die gladly if RuPaul walked in right now. He's about 7 foot tall.
Blimey.
In a glorious suit. Anyway, he says the same thing, is that when there is someone, and it's not just in relationships, it might be alcoholism, it might be drugs, etc.
Yeah.
If there is someone who does not, I echo your words, if there's someone who doesn't want to be saved, you can't do it. You cannot get inside someone's head and reprogram them to the way that you want to be, or you envision them, or you fantasize them to be. And if you want to do that, I think that in its own way is selfish, because you can't control someone on that level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's an interesting...
Do you not think that?
You put an interesting spin on that, yeah.
It's
like, I want you to leave
that's
this
not your
person
responsibility.
because I believe that this person is a... It's a shame.
Do you know what I mean? I'm always looking for the counter-argument, because I don't believe... and George R. R. Martin says the same thing. He doesn't believe that humans are wholly good or evil. You know, there's always shades of grey. And in a way, that sense of, I want to change this person, is selfish.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do, if it's causing you grief, if it's causing you upset, is to untether yourself from it.
Yeah.
Because you fussing and you worrying and you getting anxious over it when they will not change is its own kind of self-imposed mental torture.
Yeah. Unfortunately, if you are to sort of detach yourself from that person, they will more than likely view that as you've just, you've abandoned them or whatever because you don't agree with something
But
they've
just
done.
be real with them. Just be like, look, this person isn't good for you. For as long as you're with them, I can't, like, I don't. That isn't good for me.
But then the person who's in that relationship would view that as you failed them as a friend because you're not supporting them in all of their endeavours. Do you see what I mean?
Totally. But my support, I would say to this person, my support is telling you to leave them. That's where my support begins and ends. If you cannot accept my support, you don't deserve my support. No? I don't know. I think the best, we could sit here to-ing and fro-ing, volleying all night, but I think the bow you put on it so beautifully is you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, for someone who is in the shoes of being in a negative relationship, when do you let go? When is it time to let go? What is the warning signs?
Okay. When are the warning signs? I mean, to be honest, you've been and missed them.
Yeah.
Like, if the
train's been and gone.
Yeah, if you really, the thing is, you don't realise how bad the relationship you were in is until you're no longer in it.
Until it was over.
Until you're no longer in it, and you might be with somebody new now, and this person actually gives a toss about you, and what you do. It's the little things I find. One advice that I would have to absolutely anybody is watch how they treat their parents.
That's interesting. Go further.
So, for example, it's so if they don't respect their parents, like, just at all, there's no sense of respect there, and it's all like manipulation and control, then these are the people that were supposed to teach them respect, and they've clearly failed them.
Yeah.
How on earth do you think they're going to treat you?
That's so mental. Don't you think that's on a similar wavelength to you replicate the partners who mimic your parents?
It does.
It all stems from, and this is why psychology is so fascinating, it all stems from the fact in childhood. And you need someone who can bring you up. That's why when people have just kids for the sake of having kids, oh my God, and their state, and no disrespect to them, but what are you thinking?
Yeah.
Just be a bit more mindful, a bit more.
It's not something to be careless about at all.
And again, just like relationships, you only realise the implications till you're on the other side of it. My advice in terms of when to let go, and again, I know my phrase on this podcast is, I was reading this book, but it talked about vampires.
Okay.
So a vampire is someone who, when we talk to them, once we finish talking to them, whether it's over text, FaceTime, face-to-face, etc., if we feel drained, if we feel tired and exhausted after that conversation, they are a vampire. They are literally sucking the energy, passion, excitement, the thrill we have for life out of us, and we should disconnect. Because once a vampire latches on, it's like a leech. It will, pardon the image, suck and suck and suck, and draw the life out of you. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you have those friends who you talk to, like you, Chris, I would consider, you feel refreshed, you feel invigorated, you feel excited. Oh wow, that's so amazing! All these things.
Thank you,
know
sir.
What I mean? That's okay. We'll kiss after, and it might end up on the Instagram at Blaggin It Pod. Those kinds of people are your North Stars. And this is something I want to get on maybe in a later episode. The North Stars, the people who inspire you to be you, who accept the authentic you, who unconditionally, I've said and done some not non-kosher things in my time. And the friends that have stuck around and who I can rely on are the ones who say, you messed up, but I forgive you, as long as you forgive yourself and you learn, etc. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you're in a relationship, whether it be a friendship with a friend or a romantic partner, if there is a certain thing about you, a certain quirk about you that they are just totally unforgiving of, and they will drain the life out of you for having that quirk, then cut it, then let it go. In the words of Elsa, let it go.
It's interesting that you brought up the whole like forgiveness side of things. So I think what people seem to forget about relationships is they are fucking hard. Like,
yes,
it is work.
yeah.
It's not something that, most people, they put the effort in or whatever, they go on the dates or whatever, they get their fine colognes out or whatever, they go out and buy.
I want to talk about this. Carry on, but
they go and buy a new dress or something. Then it's all, it's all really exciting. The quote honeymoon period.
Yeah.
Everyone's really excited for.
I've got a solution for this, but keep going.
And then once you get that person,
yes,
efforts are out the window.
Yes.
That's it, right. I don't need to go to the gym anymore because we're going to sit inside, watch Netflix and binge eat every single takeout that's within a 5-mile radius.
Because that's the real you. That's the authentic self. And everything that came before it was a charade. How do I escape the colossal train wreck that I am? The mad, messy, ugly person that I am. I know, I'll put a different cologne on. I'll buy a new shirt. I'll go to a fancy restaurant. It's all a facade. And so here is my advice to people, is be ugly in dating. When you're first on a date, and again, Alain de Botton, I always say it, the first question you ask on a date is, and if it's too crazy, they'll run out the door. Great, they weren't the one for you. But the question is, how are you mad? Yeah? That's a bit weird. Let me unpack it.
It's essentially a polite way of saying, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, because we need to know. Because by flagging that at the beginning, by saying, look, sometimes I'm not all there. I'm a good person. I mean well, but sometimes I make mistakes.
Yeah.
But I acknowledge that. How about you? Is the most healthiest, and I emphasize the word healthiest, thing that you can possibly do. Because the way toxic relationships happen is that we didn't know the person who we were courting to begin with. We didn't know them from that first initial. We didn't know whether they'd turn out to be boring, turn out to be manipulative, turn out to be power hungry, turn out to be lazy, turn out to be overbearing, turn out to be selfish. We didn't know because they were wearing a mask. And so the best thing you can do for yourself on a date, and I do it now, and then I know that the people who I can push to one side are the ones who go, oh no, you're at arm's length. I go, great, because I know that you can't handle me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So the way you get over the honeymoon period, the way you cancel that concept out, is by be yourself. But we need to understand ourselves, and that is what brings it beautifully back to know yourself before you try to know somebody else. Before you try and love somebody else, you've got. And I think that's such a powerful thing. Be ugly in dating. Go out and wear what you would normally wear. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense, or am I being like?
Yeah, no, it's completely real, and I think it also helps. So.
Because then you have no expectations of the other person. They are so
This
upfront.
is literally what I'm just about to say. So it's like, when it comes to expectations, so think of how many times or how many people you've known that like a relationship has ended and they've been like, oh, I just can't believe that this has happened. Oh, I just can't believe that he would do this. Or I can't believe that she said that. Well,
how are you to know?
How are you to know?
That's where that
and
question comes.
Because you were both hiding away from who
Delusional.
you truly were, you have both
Duped
built
each other.
a false perception of each other. You've created an expectation of said person and put them up on a pedestal here as they are above all and everybody else. And they will never do me wrong. Unfortunately, we're human beings. We are dicks.
Yes, we're broken.
We are gonna do you wrong at some point.
But not because we. Hopefully,
not intentionally. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
There will just be. Some people will do it on purpose. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I mean, we definitely don't need them around. But it happens,
and that's how you can avoid it. So. The how are you mad, being ugly and dating, you can avoid these, and this is like, if we were to upload this to YouTube or Instagram, this would be the highlight where it'd be like, how to avoid cheating partners. By being ugly, and I don't mean being ugly as in like, be physically unattractive, I mean be honest and true. I say that be ugly because it's more like, it hits home harder.
Yeah.
But let it all hang out, do you know what I mean? Just be your authentic self.
What we mean by that is don't be in Nando's with your wang out. That's not what we mean by let it all hang out.
Hopefully we don't have to be that explicit.
Just, generally. So it's like, have you ever seen that picture that's got, it's like a...
Hang on, where's this going?
So it's a picture of a banana, and the skin is covered in diamonds, and the inside it's like brown.
Okay. Yes. No.
So it's like, on the outside it looks wonderful.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
On the inside
it's rotten.
Ugly as fuck.
Yeah.
Like, essentially we just expose that side of things, because whether we want to admit it or not, we're all fucked.
Yeah.
Like, we've all got problems here, and whilst we're on the subject of these, quote, problems, I do just want to get back to what you said about forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because when you're in a, quote, toxic relationship, or just a relationship in general, where do you think the line is when it comes to forgiving somebody for something and something that is just... No, we can't, because again, relationships are work.
Yeah.
And the difference between a couple that is together and a couple that stays together is they don't forget that part. They understand that it is work. Sometimes you're going to hit a rough patch that could be weeks, months.
Down the line.
Like, marriages, they might have like a rough couple of years.
Yeah.
But, they keep on, I don't know what keeps them going, but fair play to them.
Yeah.
But where's the line? Where's the line between working at it and being a mug?
I don't know, man.
Because it is, of course, it's subjective. It really depends on who you are, and it also depends on what said person has done.
I think it all comes down to respect. I think if the person who I'm with doesn't respect me,
yes.
If they go out of their way, if they go out of their way to make me feel bad. If anyone goes out of their way to make you feel negative things, whether it's a text or a passive aggressive phone call or anything like that, if someone has malicious intent towards you, they do not respect you. No. And it is as simple as that. So I don't think actually there is a grey area. I don't think I should have been umming and ahhing as my instinctive response. I think if someone does not respect me as a human being, then they are out the window easily.
On the subject of respect, I read something once, and it sort of really stuck with me as soon as I read it. There are so many people that I've come across in my life that they are with the wrong person.
Yeah.
Like, they just are. They should not be together, and I think both of them know that.
Yeah.
So it just begs the question, well, why are you bothering then?
I think it's because, again, it's that sense of familiarity. It's that sense of suffering. They want to suffer because maybe that was their childhood, and they need therapy. Do you know what I mean?
Some people are scared of being alone.
Exactly. I don't know. I'm never scared of being alone. Maybe because I have 2 chickens and a cat. But I operate at my best when I'm alone because
absolutely. Once you learn to appreciate your own company,
sometimes it's all you long for.
Yeah. You are unstoppable.
And it's so weird how those people who
I completely forgot what I was going to say now. Oh no, it's all right. I got it. It's fine.
The people who don't. Who need to have the party, who need to have the drinks, who need to have the club atmosphere. I believe personally that is all an escape of the self and the experience and the relationship I have of the self, the thoughts I have. Oh God, I'm thinking, I need to have a drink. I need to go to party. I need to play really loud music to drown that thing out. I need to sleep with this person. I need to cheat on this person because I need distractions.
Yes.
And that's what, we keep bringing things full circle to previous things, but meditation and self-help, self-care is the foundations of that, is the foundations of getting rid of the fear of loneliness, of being okay with oneself, and how to deal with being with oneself. And it is a mature thing to do, a mature and scary and terrifying thing to do.
Yeah.
But you'll be all the braver and stronger for experiencing it. Yeah,
no, absolutely. So, so these people, they're clearly with the wrong people, and whenever sometimes I've asked them, and it's been like, just out of interest, like, why are you here? Like, you can do better than that. There is better out
you're not
there.
Worth that.
And I get the exact same answer every time: because I love them. Because I love them. Because I love them. I'm gonna just say this: love is for children. like
It's romanticized,
relationships
isn't it?
and marriages are held on the foundations of respect for each other.
Yeah.
There is a line. There is a limit. Love is going to do sod all for you.
Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis. It is just... And honestly, do you really?
Do you know what, Chris? I think I can give the perfect ribbon to this. I love McDonald's. Doesn't mean it's good for me.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, I was trying to find a mic I could drop.
Please
not
don't.
not this one. Not this one.
This one. Okay, Chris. Wow, that was a packed episode. I feel like we've kind of gone from 1 to 100 very quickly. Last week it was the tweenies, now it was like the depths of the human psyche.
It's quite an interesting turn, I must say, for episode 2.
It's very blagging it though.
Yeah,
It's very blagging it. What have we taught the kids today?
I think we've taught them a lot of things they need to know about keeping their well-being in check.
Yes.
We've scratched the surface on relationships. I feel like there's so much more to get into.
There's always so
you know.
much, but it's yeah, totally. Okay, well, we hope you've enjoyed the show. We now have an email, so if you have any longer thoughts, if you'd like to talk to us about your experience with the meditation challenge, #Zenning it, or whether stuff we've said on the show has helped you in your relationships, etc. And the email is blagginitpodcast@gmail.com. So that's for your longer messages. And then if you do want to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, it's at blagginitpod.
Yes.
And then we also upload the episodes free to YouTube, which is just Blaggin It Podcast.
Yes.
But it's free on Apple Podcasts as well. But if you don't have an Android, then it's on YouTube. We're everywhere. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. I've changed my Twitter handle now to match my Insta because brand consistency. _ Thomas J. Baker. My website is thomasbakeractor.com. Chris, where are the peeps going to find you?
So you can find me on the Instagram at Real Chains. The Chains is CHAYNES. You can find me on Twitter and Twitch at ChainZ, which is CHAYNESEY. Through.
Yeah, I hope you all had your pen and papers for that. Thank you so much for listening, bearing with us, going through this wild journey. Have an amazing week. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, as always, guys, be nice to one another. Don't be a dick. Take care of yourselves. You are important. You definitely matter. We'll see you next week.
Tom Baker has left the chat. Bloop.
Chris is leaving the chat.
Bloop.
You've been listening to Blaggin It. And now, your usual program.